Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaur Premanande. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikara Stotra Satasimanas Divine Grace Abhay Charana Arvinde Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajikara Stotra Satasimanas Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Itai Gaur Premanande. All glories assemble devotees. All glories assemble devotees. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirahe Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 59, Text 31 and 32. This chapter is entitled The Killing of the Demon Naraka. Okay. We will recite the text 31, which is on the board. Tasyatmajoyam tava pada pankajam Vivita prapannarti haropi saditaha Tava palayanam kuruhasta pankajam Sirasi amu akhila kalama pulasayam Tasyatmajoham tava pada pankajam Bhita pranaprarti haropi sadayata Tatpalayanam kuruhasta pankajam Sirasi amuasya khila kalmashapayam Tasyatmajoham tava pada pankajam Bahita prapannarti haropi sadayata Tatpalayanam kuruhasta pankajam Sirasi amuasya khila kalmashapaham. Please chant. Tasyatmajoyam tavapaja pankajam Vipta vipannoti hara sadayata Katpalayanam kuruhasta pankajam Sirasi amusya khila kalmashapaham. Tasyatmajoham navapada pankajam Vihita prapannarti haropi svabdhita Tatpalyayanam kuru hasta pankajam Sirasya musya khila kalmashapaham Tasyatmajoyaham tava pada pankajam Bhita prapanati haro pasyaditaha Tasya kuruhasta pankajam Sirasya mukhila kalmasyapaham. Thank you very much. Word meaning? Tasya of him, Bhaumasura, Atmajaha, son. I am this, Tava, your, Pada, feet, Pankajam, lotus like, Pahita, afraid, Prapanna, of those who take shelter, Arthi, the distress, Hara, O you who remove, Upadasitaha has approached, Tat, therefore, Palayam, please protect, Enam, him, Kuru, place, Hastapankajam, your lotus hand, Sirasi, on the head, Amuasya, his, Akhila, all, Kalmasya, sins, Apalam, which eradicates. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Laishi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Here is the son of Bhaumasura. Frightened, he is approaching your lotus feet. Since ye remove the distress of all who seek refuge in you, please protect him. Please place your lotus hand, which dispels all sins, upon his head. Purport. Here is the earth goddess seeks protection for her grandson, who has been frightened by all the terribly violent events that just took place. There is no purport for this. Text 32. श्रीसुकौवाच इति भूयम् अर्थितो विभागे भगवान् भक्तिनिर्मयः दत्त्वाभयं भौमगृहं पश्याति सकलाभ्रमता. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus entered by the goddess of Bhumi in words of humble devotion, the Supreme Lord bestowed his fearless upon her grandson and then entered the Brahmasura's palace, which was filled with all manners of riches. There is no purport for this. We'll just discuss on text 31 depending on the various acharyas comments. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Gnananjanam Shalakaya Chakshurulmitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनन्तकोटि वैष्णववृन्द की जय. So this morning we are discussing on this verse where grandson of Lord Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has done mischievous activities in one sense, which is disturbing the dharma of place, and also he disturbed the whole place, and where now he is frightened and is approaching the Supreme Lord with the help of his mother. Here we see that Bhaumasura was so afraid and he was frightened and is approaching the Supreme Lord, who removes all distress, who takes in shelter of him. We see that in this, he is not approaching by himself, he is approaching through a pure devotee of the Lord. So we understand that Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in many places, like Sarva Dharman Parityatya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Ma Sucha. Those who take shelter of me, I'll protect them and I'll remove all the sins. In one sense, which is every living entity wants to take the Supreme Lord's shelter with the help of the pure devotee. That is a bona fide way to approach the Supreme Lord. But if you are directly approach the Supreme Lord, there may be a question, he may or he may not sometimes. Because Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that, "O Arjuna, you declare that my devotee will never perish." Why? Because Lord sometimes he breaks his promise. Just as in the Kurukshetra war, he took a promise that I won't handle any weapons, I won't take any weapons, I won't fight. But when it comes to the Arjuna's life, he took the weapon, he took the chariot wheel and ready to attack on Bhishma. So we see that that's why Lord is asking Arjuna to declare that. So I may, if I declare something, I may break in future. So you declare, Arjuna. So that's how we see how much the Supreme Lord loves his devotees, how much he cares for. So here also we see that the son of Brahmasura is approaching through the Mother Earth. He is not approaching directly. We see in the pastimes of Krishna Leela when Kaliya was he was creating a disturbance in the Yamuna river. He's spreading the poisons and almost he killed his friends, Lord Krishna's friends. But Lord Krishna chastised him. He didn't kill Kaliya. He killed all the demons. We see in the Krishna Lila, Lord Krishna, he killed almost every demon. But he forgave the Kaliya. Why? Because her wives, Kaliya's wife, they pray to the Lord and they approach in a submissive mood and they ask forgiveness for the Kaliya. So here also we see the same thing happening. Even though Bhaumasura's son, he did disturbance and he did very activities which are not uh, abide by dharma, but still he was forgiven because he took the shelter of the pure devotee. And we see the Jiva Goswami comments on this 31st verse. Please say what should be done. She does not mention her son's name because he was wicked. If she was wicked, even if he is your son. So here the meaning is, even if your son does some wicked activities, even if your son does some mischievous activities, he is not forgiven. Because he approached you, he has surrendered to you, you should destroy the sorrow caused by his father, O destroyer of suffering for the surrender. Therefore make him fearless. Please place your hand on his head. If you do, then all his ill action will be forgiven. The hand that destroys the sins, by the power of touch of your hand, he will not commit offenses. The hand is compared to a lotus because it removes all sufferings. On the Jiva Goswami comments, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that after praising Krishna, Bhumi makes a request. So Srila Jiva Goswami is giving elaborate description, like what mood the mother is approaching the Supreme Lord, and we, she takes a charge on behalf of her son, grandson, and approaches that. See, even though he is committed a sinful activity, and even though he is not a good son of your, good grandson of yours, but still you have to forgive him because she is appealing to the Supreme Lord. So here we see that how much importance is needed to take the shelter of the bona fide representative of the Lord. If you directly approach, you may or you may not get the shelter. That's why Lord says, who claims as my devotee is not a devotee. Who claims my devotee, he is my devotee. Like Gopi Bharta Padakamalayod Dasa Dasa Antas. So we see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs Lord Nityananda that and Haridas Thakur to go and preach and ask everyone to take the shelter of Supreme Lord. Take the opportunity. When Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur approaching everyone, they found out that these two people, Jagai Madai, creating a disturbance in the society. And Lord Nityananda thought that if I make these two wicked person, these two people, Chaitanya, disciples of Lord Chaitanya, then my master will be glorified. In that process, he approached the Jagai Madai, asked him to chant the holy name. Then we know what happens. He broke his head, and he was bleeding. Immediately, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes into picture with the Sudarshan chakra to kill him. At that time, Lord Nityananda appeals to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that please don't kill them. They are they are a recipient of your mercy. And Jagai or Madai, they are this is age of Kali. You don't have to surprise because they are doing all kind of sinful activities. Please forgive them. So when Lord Nityananda appeals on behalf of Jagai Madai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu forgives. So here we see again who is a pure devotee of the Lord appealing to the Lord that please forgive them. So Lord forgives. And another example we see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is traveling in South Indian tour, he was given assistant Kala Krishna Das. So one time Kala Krishna Das was attracted by Bhattaharis in South India. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally took charge of him and he grabbed from those people. After reaching back to the Odisha, Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejects him in one sense. He said that here is the Kala Krishna Das, please take him away. Because even though he is in my shelter, he was attracted by Bhattaharis. And I don't want to see him anymore. So in one sense, he rejected Kala Krishna Das, but at the same time, Lord Nityananda Mahaprabhu and other devotees of the Lord, they approached him. He was dissatisfied and he was distressed and he was having a hard time because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected him. So Then again devotees came into picture, asked him, just you don't have to worry about that. You go to the West Bengal, Nadiagram, like where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took place, West Bengal, Nandagram, and say about the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu return to the Orissa, and he is in Jagannath Puri. Spread this news to all the pure devotees of the Lord, especially his mother. So again we see that again devotees of the Lord, they are so merciful. They approach even though who is rejected by the Supreme Lord, here we see still the devotees of the Supreme Lord, they are so merciful. They approach him and they gave a shelter. And in that way, Kala Krishna Das was accepted by again Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he spreads the glories of the Lord. He describes he went to the Mayapur and inform everybody in his town village that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has returned to Jagannath Puri. So that service so pleasing to Supreme Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here we see whenever we get sometimes difficult time, we should take the Supreme Lord's devotees shelter. Here we see the same thing, that they are here with the Bhaumasura son was in a dangerous position, but his mother gave him shelter. And the shelter is very much required in this age of Kali, because if we don't have a shelter of the devotee, we cannot even practice Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada quotes in the Srimad Bhagavatam class one time in chapter 6, sorry, canto 6, chapter 1, text 16, in June 29th, 1975. If you have to, excuse me, you have to take the shelter of a person who is a devotee of Krishna, and you have to serve. That means you have to accept a devotee as a true devotee and a pure devotee as your guide. That is our process. The Rupa Goswami says that says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the first process is the first step adau Guru Ashraya, to accept a Guru. Accepting a Guru means Krishna's representative. One who is not Krishna's representative, he cannot become a Guru. So Srila Prabhupada clearly says that if you accept a bona fide representative of a Lord, then he should be a pure devotee. He should be your guidance. Accepting means whatever he says, we should be accepting the position to do the service. That's what Srila Prabhupada meant it. That means you have to accept him as a not only a devotee of the Lord, a true devotee of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada emphasized true devotee of the Lord means that you should not have any kind of doubts in your mind. So that's why it's called Guru Ashraya. So when you take the shelter of the pure devotee of the Lord, then only there is a means of liberation for you. Otherwise, you don't have to, there is no hope for you. We see in the Srimad Bhagavatam various places, they directly approach the Supreme Lord, they don't, they don't get the shelter. Like Duryodhana approached directly Supreme Lord, but what he wants from the Lord, he just wants the army, but he doesn't want the Lord. Whereas Arjuna asked Supreme Lord himself. So we see that here Krishna is giving a various opportunity in our day-to-day life. We should take the shelter. Just like in the morning we take the shelter of Mangalarti, where it's a glorification of the one's Guru's spiritual master. After taking the shelter of the spiritual master, after singing the Guru Ashtaka, we take the shelter of Lord Nrsimhadev. Then we take the shelter of the holy name. We cannot take the shelter of the holy name directly. We should chant the Guru's mantra, pranam mantra, then only we can chant the holy name. Because we know Hare Krishna mantra easily, but if you can approach Hare Krishna mantra easily, but there is no guarantee that you will get liberation. But at the same time, when you take the shelter of his devotee, then there is a chance of liberation. There is 100% chance. So here we see that how much emphasizing the taking shelter of the devotee, even though you are committing a sinful activities. Again, we see in the Krishna Leela, when Indra was almost, he was trying to kill all the Brajavasis with his rain, thunderstorm. That rain is meant for the annihilation of this material world. So that's much distraction. That's much destroy. He want to destroy. Almost he wants to kill. So much sinful activity. Demons, they want to kill the supreme. They want to kill the devotees of the Lord. They want to destroy the religious principle of the Lord. One sense we can understand. Demon doesn't have knowledge. But here we see the demigod, Lord Indra, wants to destroy entire village. But he took the shelter of Mother Surabhi cow. And before for asking forgiveness of the Lord, he sends Mother Surabhi cow to the Supreme Lord. Then he submissively asks forgiveness. So we should that means we can understand what's the importance of that. So in this connection, I would like to narrate pastime, um, the story which took place in South India, in Kanchipuram, the Varadaraja Swami temple. There was a one pure devotee of the Lord, Varadaraja Swami. His name is Tiruka Kanchiki Nambi. So he was the pure devotee, and he was fanning the Lord. That was his service from morning till evening, morning till afternoon, and afternoon till evening. He was every day fanning the Supreme Lord. At that time, he was talking, having dialogues with the Lord. You know, imagine if you are doing arti, having dialogues with the Lord, how it would be. So he was that much closer to the Lord, and he was very, very pure in his consciousness. He could understand the Lord's mood, and he could able to serve him nicely. So he was very, very personal, dear devotee of the Lord. One time, what happened? There was people in the villages. They used to ask him, "Oh Swamiji, can you ask the Lord when will my son get married, or when will this happen, or when will this happen?" All kinds of question they used to ask this Tirukanchambi. Then that devotee used to go to the Lord and ask him, "This so and so family is asking so and so question." Then Lord used to reply them very nicely. And one time, what happened? There was when he was doing a service of the Lord, that it became late night, and he was closing the temple, and he went. There was a heavy rain, thunderstorm. He couldn't go. So at that time, one Vaishnava came and asked him, "So, so Swamiji, you want to go to your home? We understand. So I have an umbrella, and I can take you to the home." Then all of a sudden, he was surprisingly thinking in his mind where this Vaishnava Brahmana has appeared all of a sudden, and ask him, give him shelter to then take him to the home. So, anyways, he took the his help, and he dropped off him, and in the same day he took the rest, and in the dream he came that this is a none other than Lord Vadaraja Swami. He came in the Brahmana, Vaishnava Brahmana, and gave him a shelter, and gave him assurance, and gave him an umbrella, and dropped off his still home. So since the same person, so that much dear, he was moved by this emotion, and he was moved by his kindness, and thanked see that devotee, and actually he thanked the Supreme Lord, so who accompanied his house till there was so much thunderstorm. So in the meanwhile, priest started performing evening rituals, and every day continuing his services. And one day, what happens? Like, his service was to always fan the Lord with a peacock feather. Suddenly, from his hand, peacock feather fell down. Then he could understand that now this body has become old. Now I need to leave this material world. Then he asks Lord, "O Supreme Lord, I have served my life to you. Now it's a time for give me a liberation. Please grant me liberation." Surprisingly, Lord says no. He was shocked, and he couldn't understand why you are not giving liberation. What is the reason? I have served you many years. And Lord says that you are that devotee asked Tirukanchi Tiruka Kanchi Nambi asked Lord, you given the shelter to entire villages, entire all the families who have come up with the questions, who have problems, who are in distress, all four kinds of these people basically, like Artu, Artatu, Jignasi, all four kinds of people you gave them liberation, but why not me when it times comes to me? Then Lord gives an answer. Since they have taken your shelter, that's why I have given them liberation. I have given them, mercy. Now it's a time for you to serve the pure devotee of the Lord, of my devotee. Then I will grant you liberation. So this instruction, very important lesson for everyone, that even though you are serving the Supreme Lord so personally, the Lord is so moved by your service. If you take the sh- then don't take the shelter of another devotee serving through the Lord, then there is no question of liberation. So this priest immediately understands situation, and immediately he told there is no. He goes to the he he packs up his luggage and he goes to looking the pure devotee of the Lord, and he finds, and and he takes the shelter of the one of the disciple of Ramanujacharya, and immediately he starts serving him very submissively and humble, and taking the shelter of him, and doing all kinds of service. So by that service, Varadaraja Swami moved, and by his service, and he was happily serving that Acharya. And day passes, one day comes for the liberation. So Lord granted him liberation. So this entire story tells us what is the importance of taking the shelter of the devotee. If you don't take the shelter of the devotee and directly wants to do approach the Lord, it is not going to happen. So this story tells us the wonderful lesson. It is connected to our present verse. Here we see that the wicked son of Bhaumasura, and he was very much demon, and he was not at all forgiven by the Lord. But still, Mother Bhumi makes an appeal. Please give him your shelter. Please don't say no. Please, because your lotus hand is eradicates all kinds of sinful activities. Then Lord consider it and gives him greatest benediction. And while we see that, thus with the pleasure, Supreme Lord accepted him, sinful palm, and accepted him, brought him to his shelter. He was pleased by her respect and offerings. So one should offer to the Lord with a respect and humble mood. So that is another thing which we learned today. So when we offer the respect and a humble mood to the prayers to the Supreme Lord, then Lord will accept through the medium of a bona fide representative. So we see that different examples, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, various people they want to serve the Lord directly, but they were failed. Another classic example which comes into my mind is in Ramayana. We see that Vali, you know, Vali wants at the time of his living body, he was asking the Lord, why you took the why did you ask my brother's help? If you had asked me directly, I would have bring Sita just in a second. Ravana, we had a deal. you know, we don't have you don't have to go to fight with the Ravana because he's my friend Ravana. If I ask him just Ravana, if I order him, he will bring it back. Why did you ask? Took the why did you ask my brother's help, Sugriva? So here we see that Vali did not take the shelter of Hanuman. That's why he was not given shelter of Lord. Whereas Sugriva, he took the shelter of Hanuman. That's a lesson we understand that. Then Vali make an appeal that you have just asked me, but still Lord Ramachandra did not give him shelter. He told that it is not that you directly approach me and take shelter. And another lesson we see that in the same story, same context, when Sugriva goes to the fight with the Vali first time, he offers obeisance to the Lord Ramachandra. He ignores Lakshmana and he goes for first time and he's get beaten up by his brother and swaying. He was cryingly, yelling at Lord Ramachandra, coming to the Lord Ram, asking, "Oh Lord Ram, you told that you will kill him. What happens? I was beaten up badly. Yeah. Why did you do that?" Then Lord Ramachandra gives an answer saying, very funny answer. Oh, you both were twins. I didn't find out who is who. You both look alike, same. But in that, I didn't find out who. Is that true? No. Because Lord Ramachandra knows who is Vali and who is Sugriva. That's a condition for the normal human being. We cannot understand who is who if they both are twins. But in the Lord case, it's not like that. But Lord wants to teach Sugriva that you have ignored the Lord Ramachandra, sorry, Lord Lakshmana. So then next time he goes, so Lord instruct, okay, this time if you go, take a garland from Lakshman. Then I can understand the person who is wearing garland is Sugriva. The person who is not wearing a garland is Vali. So then he goes to the Lakshman and he offers a garland. It's a natural that whenever is somebody offering a garland, you bow down to him. Correct? You don't stand straight. Obviously, he bowed down to Lakshman, and in that means he understood that I should take the shelter of his representative. Then he goes for the fight with Vali. Then he wants the war. So here we see that another incident where how much importance is given to take the shelter of his bona fide representative. So we understand that the guru's place in our life. We understand the devotees, you know, place in our life, or devotees' importance in our life. We should take their shelter and so make serve him submissively and render the ask the relevant questions and then make your life successful. So I will stop here, and if you have any questions, comments.
Thank you, Naveen Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Nice class. Um, the subject matter was very nicely explained and covered. Um, and during the time that His Holiness Ramapat Swami was here, it was a little bit of the discussion on the Lord benedicting the son of Bhamasura and later this son, what was his name?
Here it's not mentioned.
Something bags,
Varat something. Yeah.
something like that. Anyway, he landed fighting against the Pandavas on the side of Duryodhan. So, and the question was, or the discussion was, so how liberal is the Lord by, even though understanding that these personalities still have some demoniac propensities,
Correct.
and even though that by the prayers of Mother Bhumi, he blessed,
Right.
and Mother Bhumi's question or request was take all his sins.
Correct.
And, you know, you can understand that the Lord took all the sins on the request. And even then,
Mm.
this fellow landed being, on the demoniac side.
Demonic side.
And from your presentation, it was nice as you just, you know, um, came to understand that, the devotee, as you say, is the one that is very liberal. The devotees extend their kindness. Thank you so much, sir.
Mm.
Extend their kindness to people and to conditioned souls, and then the Lord's oblige and then accept this conditioned soul.
Correct.
So when the spiritual master accepts us,
Correct.
by the spiritual master acceptance you mentioned, it's a Krishna system,
Yes.
then you receive the mercy of the Lord. So when we get initiation or our,
Correct.
in the fire of sacrifice, or our sins are burned,
Right.
but they still, because we still have something in the heart that we have to purify
Right.
by the process of devotional service.
Right.
If we don't apply that, then those things can choke
Joke.
whatever the devotional creeper is there. So indeed, one can end being, opposed to the Lord and and commit offenses to the spiritual master, etc., etc.
Mm.
And we have seen that at least in our space,
Space.
we see that happens with some devotees. I have god brothers
Correct.
that ended being, very offensive and opposed, and recently there's one god brother, well, so-called god brother, that landed being will go from being a Christian monk to a devotee, again to a Christian monk, and then landed being a Babaji in in Radhakund, and then sannyas from Narayan Maharaj, and now back to a monk. That saying Krishna consciousness is
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
So, and he has been very offensive towards my Guru Maharaj.
Mhm.
So this thing happens,
Right.
So even though the Lord is very merciful and to to give shelter by the request of his devotee, then you
Again,
still can mess it up.
I can comment on this. If I understood correctly, like even though Lord has given mercy a particular um, person or devotee, and even though he has committed a sinful activity, even though he's committing all kinds of nonsense activity, okay, now Lord has given forgive. First step, Lord has given forgive because a representative, bona fide representative, to appeal to that. Please forgive this devotee. He will be good now onwards. Then still goes on again, associated with the bad people. Then again, what happens? That mercy. So that is what. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I can try to comment on this. No, I will. So what happens is that here we see that two things. One is this material world is full of contamination. We understand that. Every day we need to cleanse our consciousness. That's one thing. Even though you don't do anything, but still mind get contamination by modes. That is one. Second thing is that Giriraj Swami Maharaj wrote a book called Many Moons. I think you must have seen. In that book, Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj mentions his realization that he says like this: even though Prabhupada has given mercy to me, so much mercy, he took care so much of my needs, and now he has given so much responsibility. Now I am a sannyasi, now I'm a representative of GBC, now I'm a Diksha Guru, now I'm in charge of so many temples, now I am taking care of all other services which are left by Srila Prabhupada. Now I'm initiating people. Now I'm in my unders there are so many things which are going on. He says that even though I'm a guru, Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, blah 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 blah, but still I need a devotee association. He mentioned this. I need still a devotee association. That means still I need a guidance from another devotee. We understand what is the position of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. He says that still I need a guidance from another devotee. Even though Srila Prabhupada empowered me, but still I need a guidance from another devotee. So this guidance and this is not for a little time, so that you can just like a till you are in Madhyamadikari you need a guidance. Then you once you become a Uttamadikari you don't need a guidance. No, till you leave this material world you need a guidance. Even though you're Madhyamadikari, Uttamadikari, Kanishtadikari, still you need a guidance. That is one thing. Another thing is that which comes to in my mind that the Supreme Lord gives a mercy to the all the living entities who are taken a bona fide representative. But that doesn't mean that you know that mercy how you can utilize that independence has given the Lord. You got a mercy, and at the same time, if you misuse that independence, then you're going to fall again. Punaravartino Arjuna. Brahma Bhuvanar Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Like even though you're a Brahma, we see that Brahma also got a first person who heard Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, we see that what happens next. He was, confusion, and again, contamination keeps coming. That is one. That is my understanding. If you have a better understanding, you can comment. Thank you, sir. Shivanand.
Thank you for class, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
You were speaking about um, taking shelter and having support, and I wanted to share like one of my favorite and very important verse for me was from the Bhagavatam, the first canto, first chapter,
Mm-hmm.
eighth verse, where it says basically, and because you are submissive, your
Mm-hmm.
spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them. And in the purport, the first sentence, it says, the secret of success in spiritual life is in satisfying the spiritual master and thereby getting his sincere blessings. Um, so that's been a kind of like a pillar for me in being able to try to pursue devotional service. So I just thought I'd share that.
You want is a comment or a question,
No,
sir?
it's just a sharing of the
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one verse. One time I told my Guru Maharaj, I said, Maharaj, I think I found the most important verse in the Bhagavatam,
Right, right.
chapter 1, first canto, first chapter, eighth verse. I said, I think this is the most important verse in the whole Bhagavatam.
Correct.
And he says, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Any question? Mataji has question.
So, Goddess Bhumi, the benediction, in a sense, that she was asking for her grandson was that he be granted fearlessness because she perceived that he was experiencing fear of the Lord. So, even if, let's say that benediction is granted, that he's not experiencing fear of the Lord, obviously, as through the discussion, it requires taking shelter of the Lord or his devotees to actually proceed in a protected way. So he, at least one obstacle was removed from him, but any further progress still required his effort to stay in that path of some connection with the Supreme Lord. So anyway, I was just contemplating based on the discussion and what you presented.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. You have
Just in the spirit of participation, I'd like to ask a question. After being in the ashram for like a year, right? I don't know how exactly to word this, but it almost feels like for me, I should move out of the temple and get an apartment and then take shelter of a devotee and study and prepare more and then come back into the temple because there's so much service that you could try your best, but to really absorb this material. It used to be a time when the student would start at the age of 5 and live the whole life up to 25 to absorb this material. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts about that as far as like really being sincere and serious about absorbing the material and having a structured way of going about it.
yeah, I can share some thoughts about Prabhupada. Also can share some thoughts. The thing is that here I was emphasizing on the taking shelter. Like that doesn't mean that a temple devotee is uh, a pure devotee who are staying outside of the temple is not a pure devotee. No, whoever is staying, Jare Deko Tare Koho Krishna Upadesh. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, wherever we go, Gruhe Tako, Gruhe Tako, Vane Tako, Sadahari Bole Tako. Even though you're in household life, Gruhe Tako, Vane Tako, even though you're in the forest, Sadahari Bole Tako. So you should always chant the holy name of the Lord. That means, in this context, even though you are in a temple or even outside, you should accept a devotee. That means you should accept his instruction to the core of your heart. You should accept his instructions, even though, like, you should not judge him by his external, or you should not have any kinds of doubts in your mind. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. Accepting a devotee means you need to think that he is a pure devotee, he is a true devotee, and he is a true representative of the Lord. In that, if you have that concept in your mind, no matter you are staying in the temple or you're outside of the temple, that doesn't make any difference. Like, okay, you want to go out of the temple and do some and make a strategic plan or structure. What should I do? And approach a devotee. If he or she says okay, then proceed and do the needful. Then you may start staying outside, taking the shelter of the devotees and following their instructions strongly, and you can continue whatever you like to do. It's not this way or that way. This is only how you utilize, how you mold the instructions in your life. That is more important. Maybe Swal Prabhu can comment on this if he likes.
It's more about what would be greater benefit position with the absorption.
Well, I think Naveen Prabhu answered very nicely. I would say that, being in the temple is a big privilege and it's a facility. But as you said, the is internalizing and embracing Krishna's process, and that regardless of where you are.
Right.
So the fact is that you may be in the temple and doing all kind of nonsense, even though you're in the temple and being whimsical. And outside, you may, if you embrace the system, Christian system, you've been doing everything that is required to be purified, or vice versa. So is just the important part of embracing Krishna's, doing our best to follow Krishna system, and just as you say.
Yes. Is that okay, Prabhu? Thank you. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanande.